nice to see you here in the Innovaphone My Apps Technology Partner and App Partner Conference. My name is Lars Dietrichkeit. I'm from the business development at Innovaphone. And today we have a special guest, Michael Görög, and he wants to show us Collaboard. And I think someone will ask, Collaboard, there is no app right now in the App Store. No, right now there is no app, but in the future we will have an integration in the My Apps community, and we think it's a good time to explain what Collaboard does in the future, right now. And so Michael will show us the features of the solution and what is collaboration. When we talk as Innovaphone about UCC, Unified Communication and Collaboration, the biggest part from us is communication, video, chat, telephone. This is our daily business. And I think when we take a look at Collaboard, we can see how really collaboration will work. How do teams work together in different areas of the world, in different time zones, with different brains? How can they do big things together? So I will give the talk to Michael. Please explain your solution.
Yes, thank you very much, Lars, and we are honored and happy to be here today. Thank you as well for joining these sessions. And my name's Michael Görög. I'm one of the co-founders of Collaboard. Collaboard is an online whiteboard we developed with a Swiss software company. And yeah, I'm happy to tell you now a little bit more how you can go beyond audio and video conferencing or beyond the UCC part, going into this whiteboarding part and level up your online meetings and workshops. So what's our agenda for today? So first of all, I would like to explain you more and what is an online whiteboard, so you get the complete picture, what is the solution. Then we will look on how to level up online meetings and workshops. So why do we need an online whiteboard? What is the benefit if a company or an organization is starting to use these tools? Then we will look together at some concrete use cases. So I brought a few examples with me where you can see how our customers are using Collaboard, but also how we are using Collaboard, and maybe there is some inspiration how you could use Collaboard in the future. And in the end, and this is I think where Innovaphone and Collaboard have a really good fit. So we both take care about data security, GDPR. We are offering our customers a solution that is going beyond the standard cloud solution you can get from the big players. So we're doing something different, and we'll tell you at the end what we are doing here to, let's say, fulfill the data security compliance requirements from different customers all around the world. Yeah, now let's start with what is an online whiteboard. So I'm sure you have seen or used the flipchart in your meeting room. You have worked with an analog whiteboard or with the blackboard at the school. And maybe you have even seen this facilitator toolkit, which usually comes in form of a suitcase with cards, pens, clouds, and all these things. And this facilitator toolkit, flipchart, whiteboard, they're all used in meetings and in workshops. And let's say the disadvantages of these tools is that they are in the room where they are super static, and you always need to travel and to go there to use these solutions. Maybe you have worked in agile project rooms with a lot of sticky notes on the wall or whatever, and then maybe a cleaning department came on the weekend and everything was gone. So in this case, when we do these things digital, we have several advantages. And the idea of the online whiteboard is that we basically take these things and we digitize them. And I have here a flip chart to visualize or to explain to you it's super easy to just do digital flip charting here in Collaboard. But you can also digitize what you're doing on a classical whiteboard, or even on a project room, because in the end, when we work now with Online Whiteboard, we have a virtual canvas that is almost infinite in its size. So we can have thousands of elements here on it, and this breaks up a little bit the boundaries how we work together so far. Yeah, that's an online whiteboard, and in our case, Collaboard is a web-based solution. So meaning that you can just access it by using a web browser. Yeah, why do we need it, and what do customers do with Collaboard? So first of all, we have these main use cases that are implemented over different departments, like workshops, online meetings, brainstorming. But then it becomes also more department specific, like doing mind maps, Kanban boards, trainings, and so on. When talking about use cases and we try to explain our customers what to do with Collaboard, usually it's highly dependent on the department, also on the industry you're working in. But we see these general use cases like workshops and online meetings. These are things everybody is doing, and we are spending more and more time online. So I think it's our duty to make sure that we get the best out of this time, that we become more efficient, more productive. And also, that's, I think, very important, that this time is not boring, but it becomes fun, right? So this is just a glimpse of use cases you can implement with Online Whiteboard like Collaboard. And now we look on how to spice up our online meetings and workshops, and why does an online whiteboard help us doing that? So first of all, when you work together on the online whiteboard, you interact in real time, and you do things visually. So everybody else is seeing immediately what you are doing, and you don't need to do this boring screen sharing anymore, where just somebody is talking, other people are watching. So that's not really collaboration. Also, when you work together in one document and add ideas, for example, as text, that's not this visual way. And as humans like to think visually, Lars said in the session before that also colors affect what we are doing, affect our mood. So doing this stuff in an online whiteboard is just bringing things really to the next level. And this is why solutions like that are super important. Now, if you think about the standard meeting where you just have like an ongoing video conference, for some people, it could be super difficult to really provide inputs to these meetings. Let's say you're a little bit more introvert. Then you might not stand up and say in front of the group now your idea or whatever. And if you're doing this with the online whiteboard, in this case, everybody can add ideas to the sticky notes. You can discuss them afterwards. So it's much more inclusive doing a meeting or a workshop like that compared to just having a classical audio and video conference. Now, when we share information, we could do this also in a chat, for example, or we can share the screen or whatever, but it becomes much more efficient when we do this together on the same whiteboard. And it also allows us to break some boundaries we have in a classical workshop. So here in Collaboard, we have this infinite virtual workspace canvas where everybody can work together in real time. And we will look now on the things you can add to this virtual workspace canvas, so you understand what are the elements we had here in the past on the analog flip chart and whiteboard, and how do we extend this concept? Because when we start doing these things digital, then of course we also want to improve, right? So in this case, we will look on what Collaboard offers you to make this step, not just having a digital whiteboard, but really having this virtual workspace canvas that can help you transform your classical modern workplace into a more modern one. Yeah, so now here we see some of these elements we can put to the board, and on the left we have these things that are commonly known also from the analog world. So for example, here in Collaboard, we can add sticky notes as squares or rectangle in many different colors, and we can easily add them here to the board, start writing down our ideas or tasks or whatever. Then it's also possible to draw and sketch. And for us, it was very important that we provide our users the same tool set they already know from the real world. And this is why we don't have just one single pen. So there is like a nib, there is a highlighter, a brush, a pen, a pencil, and so on. So you can really use this to add visualizations to your whiteboard. And unfortunately, I'm really not talented in drawing. So what we're doing in Collaboard, we try to help users like me by adding some sort of templates. So when you start working with an online whiteboard, you don't need to start always from scratch, meaning that you can leverage different kind of templates. And one sort of templates that I really like, these are the drawings. So you see here, you have all these cool drawings you can add to your whiteboard, customize based on your needs. And then it looks like you spend all the time doing these drawings, and that's just putting a more personal touch to the online meeting experience, which I think is very important when we think about how to improve the time we spend meeting online. Then it's also possible to add and import documents to Collaboard. So here we just support like the standard files most of the people are working with, like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and PDF. I can upload them to the board. And you see here I'm using all these images. So in Collaboard, I have the option to upload images. I can take a selfie if I want, or I have here this integrated image search, where I can just search for the images on the web and then drag and drop them to the canvas if I like. And for us, it was not enough to have just images on the board, because we thought, and especially when we look at the younger generation, where we see that video becomes like an omnipresent element in their daily life, we think that having and working with videos in a business world is also super important. And this is why we allow you as well to add videos to Collaboard, meaning you can upload videos. You can also record directly a video with your camera. So meaning you can have a video message directly on the board, explaining some things for the people who come later, or maybe you do like a welcome message for your workshop. Or as well, there is like an integrated search with YouTube. So we can, for example, search here for innovaphone videos. And now I misspelled it. Sorry for that. We do it once again. And now here we could see here some videos about my apps, for example, or some innovaphone talks, and adding these videos then directly here to the whiteboard canvas. But this is not the end, it's more or less just the beginning. Now we also have the option in Collaboard to embed web content, meaning we can embed here a website. So let me do this shortly. We are embedding here the Collaboard website. And that's quite cool, because in the end, we have now here this interactive content, which is a fully working website. I can scroll through, I can click on the buttons. If I want to do that, for example, I can even sign up for the newsletter if this is something I would like to do. And here I also have the option then to access the menu. And taking this into consideration, we really extend this concept of having just a whiteboard into doing much more. And most of the people who start using an online whiteboard, they start with the sticky notes, sketching, adding some images and videos, and then the more experienced you are, the more of these features you're going to use. Yeah, and then there is much more. There are many different kind of shapes, lines. It's possible to add commands and so on. So this is also continuously evolving, and we are adding new features and options. But I don't want to bore you now with all these features. So let's have a look at some concrete use cases. And one use case is one of my favorite ones, is the one where you can see the big picture. So I put here the eagle because at least in Germany we have this saying about the eagle perspective, where you can look at something from top. And what you see here is basically documents we imported. So with Collaboard, we're working a lot with governments and bigger organizations, and maybe you also have taken part into a public tender. And when you do that, you remember you download a zip file. In the zip file are a lot of folders with subfolders, and then in these subfolders there live a lot of documents. And for me, it was always very painful to figure out, okay, where is now which document? What do we need to do? Because I was always missing this big picture. And what you see here in Collaboard, you see a lot of documents which we imported, and then we extracted the single pages. So we see the content directly. And let's have a look on how we do that. So I added here a presentation of Collaboard, which is a PDF with 22 pages. So I can do now two things. I can browse through these pages. That's one thing I can do. And I can also extract now the pages I would like to check in more detail. And I have here one example on how we are doing that. So here you see, this is one of our white papers. So we put here some sticky notes about the task, what we need to do. Then we also use the highlighter to highlight what's important in our case. I think that's we need to put it to the back. Okay, so in this case we see here this highlighting. We have then a comment and so on, and this really helps us now to visually work on this content, and it's much more efficient than having just all this information in some subfolders. And with this visual part, it's a complete new way of working. And what I really like, it's like quite similar when you print these documents out. You sit next to each other, you have the highlighter, you have the pen, and you draw something on the paper. This is what you can do here directly in the whiteboard. So that's one use case. And working on public tenders, it is not the most creative thing. So let's have a look at some more creative use cases. One thing that you can do with Collaboard is you can create mind maps. So you see here, I already connected a lot of elements together. Also, if I move them, they stay connected. I'm using different colors and so on. And if we look at these connections, I can adjust them really dynamically, meaning I can put here another color. I can increase the size if I like. And these connections are super powerful because they don't just allow me to do mind maps. I can also use them to visualize a flow, for example, by adding arrows. And we have a lot of customers who are using that to visualize workflows, to map processes. And the beautiful thing is that if you do it in Collaboard, it's a simple to use software. So it's not a process software where you can do all the details, but you can do it in an easy way with people that are also not super digital affine. And after a few minutes, they are ready to do that. So that's one idea of a mind map. Now, when we designed Collaboard, it was important for us that you can't just connect text with each other, but you can basically connect all the elements. And if we look here now at this mind map, we see there are a lot of pictures connected. And the topic of the mind maps are planets, galaxies, stars. And they seem to be a little bit misplaced here on the whiteboard. And this is because they have all these black borders. And what we can do in Collaboard, we can switch from the whiteboard basically to a dark mode. So we're doing this now here. And after doing that, you see then the images, they fit perfectly. And dark mode has a few advantages. first of all, it's cool. Then second of all, it also is nice when you work at night. It saves a little bit of energy on your display. But I think the most important reason of doing that is for accessibility. So we have a lot of governments who are checking a solution if they fulfill the accessibility requirements, meaning that also people who, let's say, don't have a good sight are able to work with the solution. And by switching Collaboard to this dark mode, we implement something like a high contrast mode that makes it easier to read the content on the board. So just to give you some ideas. So we have these creative activities like creating mind maps. Then, of course, a lot of people brainstorm with Collaboard. And I don't want to tell you just about classical brainstorming. So let's have a look at one more specific use case called brain writing. So what's the idea of brain writing? The basic idea is that you separate the idea generation and the idea discussion. So what we see here, we have here these 4 brains on the side. And the idea is that now everybody can start working here on his own sticky notes, adding his or her thoughts basically, and doing this by him or herself. Meaning that when you're doing that, you're not disturbed by the others, you don't look at what the others are doing. And then at the end, when you're done with your own brainstorming activity, you're starting to add this content into the idea collection. And everybody then starts to work together on the idea collection, and we discuss then everything that was collected. And that's a nice way to do it. And it also should emphasize once again that we have like an infinite whiteboard where everybody can work in his corner, and then we bring content together in a shared area basically. Now let's switch back again to the standard whiteboard, and let's have a look at another use case. A lot of people are doing retrospectives. So this is like an integral part for agile methodologies, for example, and especially in the world we are now, we need always to iterate, we need to improve things. So the retrospective is something super important. And one of these retrospectives is like the sailboat retrospective. This is also a template you find in our template library. And the basic idea is to figure out, okay, in our project, what is the wind that helps us going on? What are the anchors that hold us back? Which are the rocks or the obstacles on our way that we need to overcome? And then the island is usually the place where we want to go. And when you do this retrospective in your team, then everybody is adding here the notes, writing down the thoughts. So we collect these things. And you could do the same in a Word file. So where you have just these chapters and everybody's typing this in there. But you're missing completely the visual part. And I think that's the important thing when we talk here about doing something on the online whiteboard. It's just much more visual, it's more engaging, and it's also more fun. And that's something super important when we now move and meet more often online. Now, when we think about these meetings and workshops that we orchestrate and do, then we also need somebody to make sure that there is no chaos on the whiteboard. And in Collaboard, we have a set of features, we call them facilitator features, that help you basically prevent having this chaos. So there is a timer where you can say how long people should have time to do an exercise. There is something called get attention mode, where you can drive the attention of the people to a specific location on the board. Then there is a presentation mode. That's basically the alternative to screen sharing. And I will show you in a few seconds how this is done. And then there is a voting and the rating feature. And for us, it was important to combine basically the like feature we know from social media, basically. So people have a number of votes, and then they can like on the ideas on the board. And then the other thing is the rating, which we also know from being in the digital world where we buy products or whatever. So we have this star rating that we can also apply to ideas here directly on the board. Now, to show you the presentation mode, I'm doing the following. I'm just generating here a link. So that's one way how you invite other people to the whiteboard. I'm copying this link to a second browser, accessing now as a second user the same board. And we're looking at this now in split screen, meaning on the left side, we see Michael logged in with the image, and on the right side, we see Michael logged in with the initials. So what we can do now, first of all, we see that we are on complete different locations on the board. And the first thing I'm doing is I'm driving the other Michael to the same location. So I'm grabbing his attention, meaning that he's following me directly to the same position. Now, if we want, we could now collaborate together, meaning adding some sticky notes, and then you see everything is really appearing in real time. But if I would like to now do the presentation directly in Collaboard, I have here the option to start the presentation mode. And now when I move around the board, we can go back, and you see on the left, Michael is moving, and on the right, all the other people are following me. Meaning I don't need, after a brainstorming session in Collaboard, to switch to the screen sharing again. I can immediately start the presentation mode and everybody is following me, and this is how we discuss then the ideas together. Yeah, this is this set of facilitator tools we have here in Collaboard. Now let me give you one last example. So when we start working with an online whiteboard, for most of the people, it's a new experience. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that they have a great onboarding session. So this is one idea of an onboarding journey, which is basically the journey over the Swiss Alps, where we start at the Lake Geneva. And then you see there are some areas, and every area provides a task. One of the tasks, for example, here is that people need to rebuild this chalet. And then they learn how to work with the shapes in Collaboard, and the journey continues over the mountains here with other tasks. And maybe most interesting here is that everything you see now is built with the elements in Collaboard. So that's something you can do in the whiteboard. And then if you know the geography of Switzerland, when you are over the mountains and you are coming to Zurich, and Zurich is important to me because this is where I am from, and this is also where Collaboard is from. Now let me talk a few seconds about Collaboard and the company behind it. So Collaboard is a Swiss-made software by a software company called IBV. IBV was founded 1981 by Andreas, my dad, and in 2016 we decided to launch Collaboard. Now, as the company history is more than 40 years now, we also had a backpack with us, right? And what we have done in the last 20 years, we have done a lot with security software. So we helped here banks, insurances, and other companies to ensure and secure their infrastructure, protect their files and everything. And this backpack or this knowledge was something super important to us when we designed Collaboard. And this helps us now a lot when we talk to governments or to the healthcare or aerospace and defense industry when it's about data security. And maybe you know this Damocles sword that's usually about data, about modern collaboration tools regarding data security. So most of the time the people come, hey, we have a new cool tool, let's try to use it. And then, okay, is it secure? Does it fulfill our requirements? Let's start a process, could take 1 year or whatever. So for us, it was very important that we either help our customers to speed up this process a little bit, or at least that we make it more easier to go through that process. And we have done a few things to do that. So first of all, we are offering different hosting options. So our customer can get Collaboard hosted in Switzerland. Here we are using Microsoft Azure. Or what they can do as well, they are able to use Collaboard in Germany from the Open Telecom cloud that is owned by the German Telecom. With that, we have European data sovereignty, which is, of course, super important to all the European companies. But we have as well customers in the US, for example, and then they are using Collaboard, for example, from the AWS Gov data centers and so on. In the end, one of the important things is the flexibility. So either you can get Collaboard as software as a service from us, or you can decide where to host that. So there is this option for private cloud hosting, meaning you can host Collaboard completely on your own data centers on premise. You can run it shielded off the internet where you have no connection to outside. Or as I said, there is also the option to use the cloud hoster of your choice. And especially aerospace and defense and government in the US, they're using Collaboard from this Azure or AWS Gov environment, basically. Yeah, and with these flexibilities, but of course then with encryption, with our DevSec processes, how we fix security issues and so on, we basically have a solution that really addresses the needs of these customers. And we are very happy that the Collaboard has become one of the most secure online whiteboards available on the market. Yeah, that's more or less what I wanted to tell you today. So thank you very much for your time. Now we can do two last things. So when you want to try it out, just take your mobile phone, scan this QR code, and you come to our website where you can request a trial. And then, of course, we have now time for questions. But first of all, thank you all for your attendance. And then I hand back to Lars.
Thank you, Michael. That was absolutely great. And for all of you which have never worked on a whiteboard with different persons together, it's extremely amazing when you see 20, 30, 40 persons working on one whiteboard and thinking together, putting content in the board. It's absolutely strange, because in the normal world it's not so easy possible. And what I like is that you can export all the informations later to a JPEG file, and that you have all the informations, all the links, all the videos in your pocket. When you have the link to the board, you can work at the night when you have some thoughts, you want to attend to some boards. You can do this whenever you want, and all the team members can attend your ideas after that too. Thanks to all of you for listening the webinar. Thanks to Michael, and if it's okay for you, we will share this solution, this session on YouTube, and you can send it to other persons. I say thanks for attending, and see you at the next webinar. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.